The first time the aliens showed up, the world froze. Their ships weren't like the ones we imagined in movies, sleek and silvery, zipping around with bright lights. No, these things were enormous, dark masses blotting out the sky, their sheer size defying all logic. They hovered silently above cities, oceans, and mountain ranges, casting long shadows that made midday feel like dusk. At first, we didn't know what to do. Governments scrambled, news channels ran 24-hour coverage, and social media became a chaotic stream of theories and fear. Everyone wanted answers, but the aliens didn't speak for days. They just hung there, watching. When they finally did speak, it wasn't through radio waves or some cryptic language no one could decipher. They just appeared. Holograms of tall, silver-skinned beings materialized in the air above every major city, their forms shimmering like heat waves. They had elongated limbs, smooth, featureless faces except for two glowing blue orbs where their eyes should have been. They weren't threatening, not in the traditional sense, but there was something unnerving about their calmness. "We've heard stories of Earthlings," their leader said. Its voice was a strange mix of static and melody, like a radio barely tuned to the right station. "Stories of your resilience, your cleverness, your ability to overcome impossible odds. We are here to test the truth of these claims." The announcement sent shockwaves through the planet. Test us? For what? Why? Were they scouts for an invasion? Or was this some kind of cosmic game to them? The aliens didn't elaborate. They simply began. The first test was a riddle projected simultaneously in every major language on massive holographic displays. It wasn't a simple brain teaser, it was a complex mathematical problem involving variables and concepts most people couldn't even begin to understand. Scientists, mathematicians, and AI algorithms worked frantically to solve it. It took a global team effort, but humanity managed to solve the riddle within hours. The aliens acknowledged our success with a polite nod, and their leader offered a faint smile, if you could call the slight ripple across its otherwise featureless face a smile. But then came the physical challenges. The aliens set up elaborate trials, puzzles requiring agility, endurance, and precision. They created arenas where human volunteers competed against each other and, eventually, against the aliens themselves. That's when the laughter started. They didn't laugh in a cruel way, not at first. It was more like the kind of chuckle you'd have watching a toddler try to throw a ball. Our soldiers and athletes struggled to keep up with the aliens' superior speed and reflexes. In one challenge, a human sharpshooter was tasked with hitting a series of floating targets while dodging obstacles. The alien watching him shook its head as the soldier missed more than half of his shots. "Your aim is pathetic," it said, its voice dripping with amusement. "How did you ever manage to survive this long?" The words stung. Humanity had prided itself on its ingenuity, its ability to adapt and overcome, but here we were, being mocked like children trying to play a grown-up's game. Some people grew angry, while others fell into despair. But a few of us, those watching closely, noticed something the aliens didn't. Their arrogance. They were so busy laughing at our failures that they didn't see the glint in our eyes, the way our scientists scribbled furiously in their notebooks, the way our leaders whispered quietly to each other, forming plans. What the aliens didn't realize was that humanity had never been the strongest, fastest, or smartest species. Not even on our own planet. What made us dangerous wasn't our skill, it was our persistence. We weren't aiming for their targets. Not yet. We were aiming for something much bigger, and they didn't even see it coming. The challenges escalated quickly, faster than anyone had anticipated. The aliens wasted no time setting up what they called the Gauntlet, a series of increasingly difficult trials designed to push humanity's limits. Each new test was introduced with an air of condescension, as though they were humoring us rather than genuinely challenging us. The first of these trials involved speed. An alien hologram appeared in the sky, outlining the task. Participants had to navigate a complex obstacle course, dodging moving barriers while retrieving glowing orbs placed at impossible angles. The course wasn't built for humans. The barriers moved too fast, the orbs were too high, and the ground shifted unpredictably beneath the participants' feet. The aliens, watching from their hovering crafts, chuckled as human athletes stumbled and fell, barely managing to retrieve a fraction of the orbs before the timer ran out. "So slow," one alien commented, its voice broadcast across the course. "This is your best? How disappointing." Next came the tests of precision. Soldiers, engineers, and even skilled marksmen were handed alien genealogic weapons, sleek, weightless things that fired beams of energy instead of bullets. The goal was to hit a series of small, darting targets that zipped through the air with erratic, almost impossible speed. The soldiers gritted their teeth, adjusted their stances, and fired shot after shot. They missed. Over and over again they missed. The aliens laughed, openly this time, their amusement echoing across the observation zones. "You aim for where the target is," one alien said, shaking its smooth silver head, "not for where it's going to be." Such primitive thinking. Even the brightest minds among us struggled in the intellectual challenges. The aliens presented puzzles that required knowledge of advanced physics, quantum mechanics, and multidimensional calculus, fields where even our most brilliant scientists were still taking baby steps. The holographic solutions the aliens displayed after each failed attempt were dazzling in their complexity, and their smugness was palpable. "You see only in 3 dimensions," one alien remarked after a particularly dismal failure. "Your understanding is so linear." The constant mockery began to wear on humanity. You could see it in the faces of the participants as they walked off the courses, heads bowed, shoulders slumped. News anchors tried to put a positive spin on things, praising the effort and determination of the competitors, but the truth was plain. We were being humiliated. And yet, for all their laughter, the aliens didn't seem to notice the quiet work happening behind the scenes. They didn't see the way human scientists recorded every detail of the alien technology used in the trials. They didn't hear the whispered conversations between military leaders and strategists, who were already piecing together what they'd learned. Every missed shot, every stumble, every wrong answer, it was all being logged, analyzed, and understood. The aliens thought they were exposing our weaknesses, but in reality, they were giving us the keys to their own. The gauntlet wasn't just a series of trials, it was a classroom, and humanity, though bruised and battered, was proving to be an excellent student. By the time the aliens announced their ultimate test, the mood on Earth had shifted. The initial awe and fear had given way to a simmering determination. The aliens might have been faster, stronger, and more advanced, but they had made one fatal mistake. They assumed that humanity's apparent failures meant we were inferior. They didn't realize we were learning from every single test they threw at us. The final challenge wasn't like the others. This wasn't about individual skills or solving puzzles. No, this was a full-scale simulation of planetary warfare. The aliens would play the role of invaders, while humanity would defend Earth with whatever tactics and resources we deemed fit. The announcement caused an uproar. Some called it a cruel game, a thinly veiled way of flaunting their superiority. Others saw it as an opportunity, a chance to show them what we were truly capable of. Preparations began immediately. World leaders convened in secret, military strategists pored over maps and simulations, and engineers worked around the clock to repurpose existing technology. The aliens had made one thing clear. This was a test, not an actual invasion. They wouldn't use their full arsenal, and they wouldn't target civilians. But their forces would still be overwhelming, designed to push us to the brink. When the day of the challenge arrived, the aliens descended from the sky like a storm. Their ships, sleek and menacing, blotted out the horizon, forming a vast fleet that seemed to stretch forever. Their ground forces, robotic constructs with weaponry far beyond anything we'd ever seen, marched in perfect unison, their metallic footsteps echoing across the land. The sight alone was enough to make even the most hardened soldiers break into a sweat. And yet, humanity didn't panic. Our forces mobilized with a calm, quiet resolve that seemed almost at odds with the chaos unfolding around them. The aliens watched with bemused curiosity as we deployed what they clearly considered outdated and primitive technology: tanks, fighter jets, missiles, and ground troops armed with conventional weapons. It must have looked like an ant colony trying to fend off a tidal wave. Their leader, who had taken to observing every challenge with an air of detached superiority, broadcast a message to the world. "You continue to rely on tools that are centuries behind ours," it said, its voice tinged with mockery. "This will not be a battle, it will be a lesson." The battle began, and at first it went exactly as the aliens expected. Their ships moved with impossible speed, easily evading our missiles. Their ground forces advanced methodically, shrugging off the best our tanks and artillery could throw at them. Our fighter jets looked like clumsy insects compared to their sleek, gravity-defying crafts. The aliens were so confident, so sure of their dominance, that they didn't notice the subtle patterns in our attacks. We were aiming for their forces, not really. Every missile that veered off course, every jet that seemed to miss its mark, it was all part of a larger strategy. Our true targets were scattered across the upper atmosphere, orbiting silently above the Earth, their satellites. These were the eyes and ears of their fleet, the systems that coordinated their movements and kept them in perfect harmony. The first satellite went dark with barely a flicker, then the second, and the third. It wasn't until the fifth satellite was taken out that the aliens began to realize something was wrong. Their fleet, once a seamless, synchronized machine, started to falter. Ships drifted out of formation, their movements jerky. "What are you doing?" their leader demanded, its calm demeanor cracking for the first time. But humanity didn't answer. We didn't need to. For the first time in the entire ordeal, the aliens weren't laughing. The invasion simulation unraveled quickly after the satellites began to fall. The aliens, so used to relying on their flawless technology, suddenly found themselves navigating chaos. Their once impenetrable formations began to break apart as ships lost communication with one another. The ground forces, which had operated with the precision of a hive mind, now moved erratically, their responses delayed and uncoordinated. It was a spectacle to behold. An empire of perfect order crumbling under the weight of its own reliance on control. Humanity didn't waste a second. As soon as the alien forces faltered, our military launched the second phase of the plan. Squadrons of fighter jets, previously keeping their distance, swooped in low to exploit the disarray. Ground troops, initially holding defensive positions, surged forward in waves, targeting alien constructs with a ferocity that caught them off guard. Missiles that had seemed laughably ineffective before now found their marks, striking ships that were unable to dodge in time. It was organized chaos, the kind of battle humanity excelled at. For all their technological superiority, the aliens didn't know how to adapt to unpredictability. They were designed for efficiency, not improvisation, and it showed. A human pilot, faced with a malfunctioning system, would find a way to make it work. An alien construct, faced with the same problem, would simply shut down. On the ground, soldiers took advantage of every weakness. They used terrain to their advantage, setting ambushes and leading alien machines into traps. Engineers had rigged old equipment with new tricks. Antiquated tanks now carried electromagnetic pulse devices capable of short-circuiting the alien constructs. Drones, piloted by technicians in hidden bunkers, swarmed the battlefield, overwhelming the enemy with sheer numbers. It didn't matter that our weapons weren't as advanced. What mattered was that we understood the game now, and we were playing to win. Above the Earth, the skies were no less chaotic. The alien ships, once moving with the grace of birds in flight, now staggered through the air like wounded beasts. Without their satellites to guide them, they struggled to maintain formation, and human pilots exploited every gap. Jet fighters darted in and out of their ranks, firing missiles at close range before peeling away. Some pilots didn't make it back. Their jets caught in retaliatory fire. But for every human loss, an alien ship fell. And still, the aliens couldn't comprehend what was happening. Their leader appeared on screens across the world, its once smug voice now tinged with desperation. "This is not possible," it said, its words almost a plea. "You cannot defeat us. Your tactics are illogical." It didn't understand. Logic wasn't humanity's strongest weapon. Our strength was in our unpredictability, our willingness to take risks and turn weaknesses into opportunities. We didn't fight the way they expected, and that was why we were winning. The turning point came when the largest of their ships, a massive, city-sized craft that had hovered menacingly above the Atlantic, began to fall. Its engines sputtered, its lights flickered, and then, with a deafening roar, it plummeted into the ocean. The impact sent shockwaves for miles, both literal and figurative. The aliens, who had been so confident in their superiority, were now in full retreat. But humanity wasn't done yet. We didn't just want to win this battle, we wanted to send a message. The alien leader's voice crackled through our communication channels once more, this time trembling with a mix of frustration and disbelief. "Why? Why do you fight this way? You do not aim for us, yet you destroy us. What is your true target?" The answer was simple, though we didn't say it out loud. Their arrogance, their belief that they were untouchable. And now, for the first time, they were learning what it felt like to lose. The tide had turned, and everyone on Earth felt it. What had started as a series of humiliating defeats was now a symphony of human resilience and ingenuity. The aliens, once so assured of their dominance, were scrambling to regain control. Their retreat was uncoordinated, their forces splintered. Ships darted away from combat zones, but without their satellite guidance, many collided with each other or plummeted to the ground in fiery streaks. The battlefield, once a testament to their technological superiority, had become a graveyard of their hubris. On the ground, their once unstoppable constructs, those towering machines of metal and energy, were reduced to heaps of smoldering debris. Soldiers worked in teams, exploiting every weak point the engineers had identified in the weeks leading up to the invasion. EMP devices attached to drones buzzed around the constructs, delivering concentrated bursts that fried circuits and left the machines lifeless. When the bigger machines fell, cheers erupted across the comms, each victory fueling the fire of humanity's resolve. The skies were no less chaotic. Human pilots, emboldened by their newfound advantage, pushed their jets to the limit. They weaved through alien formations with reckless precision, their maneuvers unpredictable and their targets calculated. Missiles that once seemed hopelessly outclassed now found their marks as alien ships moved slower and more erratically. Every successful strike sent debris raining down, and with each explosion, the balance of power shifted further in our favor. But it wasn't just the soldiers and pilots who fought. Civilians across the globe played their part too. Scientists worked tirelessly in underground bunkers, adapting alien technology for human use in real time. Hackers breached alien communication systems, feeding false data to further confuse their forces. Even ordinary people, armed with nothing but determination, used drones, radios, and anything they could find to assist in the effort. This wasn't just a battle of armies. It was a war fought by an entire species united against a common foe. The alien leader's voice returned, echoing across every screen and communication device. But now, it lacked the smug confidence it once carried. Instead, it was strained, desperate. "Earthlings," it said, its tone trembling with disbelief, "this was not meant to be. You were to prove your resilience, not challenge us. "We underestimated you. Call off your attack and we will end this." The plea hung in the air, but humanity didn't stop. Not because we wanted destruction, but because we knew this was our moment to make a statement. The aliens had come here believing they could test us, mock us, and leave unscathed. They needed to understand that humanity was not a species to be toyed with. The final blow came in the form of a coordinated strike. Ground-based railguns, powered by every ounce of energy Earth could muster, targeted the remaining alien motherships. The weapons, crude compared to the aliens' sleek designs, were devastatingly effective. One by one, the largest ships fell, their engines failing and their hulls splitting apart. The skies filled with fire and smoke, and the Earth trembled as the wreckage crashed down. For a moment, there was silence. The alien fleet was in shambles, their forces scattered and broken. Then came the cheers. Across every continent, humanity roared in triumph. People poured into the streets, embracing strangers, crying tears of joy and relief. We had done it. Against all odds, we had stood against a technologically superior enemy and emerged victorious. But victory wasn't just about survival. It was about proving something fundamental. We weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but we were something the aliens hadn't accounted for: relentless. Where they relied on precision, we thrived in chaos. Where they depended on their technology, we adapted. And where they dismissed us as primitive, we showed them the power of human ingenuity and unity. As the last alien ship disappeared into the upper atmosphere, limping away in retreat, the world watched. The test was over, but the lesson wasn't theirs alone. We had discovered something about ourselves, too. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in our tools or our tactics. It was in our unyielding spirit, our refusal to give up even when the odds seemed insurmountable. For the first time, the aliens were no longer laughing. The alien ships retreated, battered and broken, their once imposing presence reduced to a faint glimmer in the upper atmosphere. The eerie silence they left behind felt almost louder than the chaos of the battle. For the first time in weeks, the skies were clear, the stars visible once again. But Earth was far from celebrating. The aftermath of the fight was raw and heavy, and humanity knew this wasn't over. The aliens hadn't simply been defeated, they had been humiliated. That kind of defeat left scars, and scars often festered into something worse. As cleanup efforts began, the scale of the destruction became clear. Cities that had been battlegrounds were reduced to rubble. Farmlands were scorched, and oceans bore the wreckage of alien ships. People emerged from shelters cautiously, their faces a mix of relief and sorrow. The cost of victory had been high, and the weight of the sacrifices was felt everywhere. Yet, there was also something else in the air: pride. We had survived the test not through submission or compliance, but through sheer defiance. In the days following the retreat, the world came together in a way that hadn't been seen in centuries. Nations that had once been adversaries now shared resources, rebuilding cities and caring for the wounded. Scientists from rival countries sat shoulder to shoulder, examining the remnants of alien technology. The shards of the alien constructs became more than just debris. They were pieces of a puzzle that humanity was eager to solve. Military leaders, though outwardly cautious, couldn't hide their fascination with the enemy's weaponry. Reverse engineering began almost immediately, with teams working around the clock to understand the alien systems. What had been used against us could now become our greatest advantage. Humanity wasn't content with just surviving. We wanted to ensure that if the aliens ever returned, we'd be ready. Meanwhile, the alien leader's final transmission was replayed countless times, dissected by experts and debated endlessly. "You were to prove your resilience, not challenge us," it had said, its voice a mix of disbelief and frustration. The question lingered. Had this truly been a test? And if so, What did the aliens hope to achieve? Some argued that the aliens had come to judge whether humanity was worthy of coexistence. Others believed it was a simple display of power, a warning of what they could do if we resisted. But there were those who saw something deeper, something more unsettling. The aliens had laughed at us, mocked our aim, and dismissed our tactics. Their arrogance had been their undoing, but it also revealed something troubling. They had expected us to fail. They had expected us to submit. That expectation spoke volumes about how they viewed the universe. To them, lesser species existed to be controlled, manipulated, or discarded. Our victory had shattered that assumption, but it also painted a target on us. If the aliens saw us as a threat now, would they return? Not to test us, but to eliminate us. In the midst of the rebuilding, humanity prepared for that possibility. Factories once dedicated to consumer goods were retooled for weapons production, defense systems were upgraded, satellites armed with new capabilities. Even as people celebrated their survival, the shadow of the aliens' return loomed large. But there was something else too, something the aliens hadn't anticipated. For all their advanced technology, they had underestimated the power of human creativity. They had assumed that our failures in their tests were proof of inferiority, never realizing those same failures were lessons in disguise. Every missed shot, every botched maneuver had taught us more about their technology than they could have imagined. We weren't just rebuilding, we were evolving. Scientists began theorizing new propulsion systems inspired by alien ships. Engineers experimented with hybrid technologies combining human ingenuity with alien efficiency. For the first time, humanity wasn't looking at the stars with simple curiosity. Now, we were looking with purpose. And so, while the aliens licked their wounds somewhere beyond the reach of our telescopes, humanity stood united in its resolve. We didn't know when or if they would return. But one thing was certain. The next time they came, they wouldn't find a species fumbling to meet their standards. They would find something far more dangerous. They had laughed at our aim, but now they would learn what happens when humanity truly sets its sights on a target. Years passed, but the memory of the alien invasion never faded. It became a defining moment in human history, a story told in classrooms and whispered around campfires. For some, it was a tale of triumph, a reminder of how humanity had risen above its limitations to defeat an enemy that had considered us insignificant. For others, it was a warning, a prelude to an uncertain future. Because while the aliens had retreated, their absence was not a guarantee of peace. It was merely the calm before a storm we all knew could return. The remnants of the alien technology became the foundation for a new era. Research facilities sprung up around the world, guarded like fortresses as scientists worked tirelessly to decode the secrets left behind. The discoveries were staggering, materials stronger and lighter than anything Earth had ever produced, energy sources that defied our understanding of physics, computing systems so advanced they seemed almost alive. Humanity's knowledge leapt forward by centuries in the span of a few years. But these advancements came with a price. The world was no longer the same. Borders blurred as nations formed alliances out of necessity, pooling resources and knowledge to prepare for the inevitable. Military budgets skyrocketed, with every country racing to build ships, weapons, and defenses capable of standing against a future threat. The concept of national pride shifted. It was no longer about who was the strongest on Earth, but about who could best contribute to the survival of the species. Space became humanity's new frontier, not for exploration, but for fortification. Orbital defense platforms bristling with weapons encircled the planet, their sleek designs inspired by the alien ships we had once fought against. Massive shipyards were constructed in orbit, building vessels capable of traveling farther and faster than anything we had dreamed of before. Humanity wasn't just preparing to defend Earth. We were preparing to take the fight to them, if it ever came to that. And yet, despite all the progress, there was an underlying tension that no amount of technology could erase. The alien leader's final words still haunted us. You were to prove your resilience, not challenge us. What had they meant by that? Were we an experiment, a warning to other species, or had we simply become an annoyance they hadn't yet decided how to deal with? The silence from the stars was deafening, and it kept humanity on edge. Then, one day, the silence ended. It began with a faint signal, barely discernible amidst the cosmic background noise. At first, it was dismissed as interference, but as the pattern repeated, the truth became clear. It was a message, and it wasn't coming from Earth. The message was simple, chilling in its brevity. Translated, it read, "You have exceeded expectations. Prepare yourselves." The words sent shockwaves across the globe. What did it mean? Was it a threat, a challenge, or something else entirely? No one knew, but one thing was certain: humanity's actions had not gone unnoticed. The message galvanized the world. Construction on new ships accelerated, and every scientist, engineer, and strategist worked tirelessly to prepare for whatever was coming. The alien threat had transformed humanity, uniting us in a way nothing else ever had. We were no longer just a species bound to one planet. We were something more, something stronger. When the ships launched, their hulls gleaming with the brilliance of both human and alien design, they carried more than weapons. They carried a message of their own, one that the aliens would undoubtedly understand when the time came. Humanity had been tested, mocked, and underestimated. But now, the stars would know the truth. We were ready, not just to defend ourselves, but to carve our place in the cosmos. They had laughed at our aim, but they hadn't realized the real target. Now the universe would.